At the All-Star break, I was hitting just 210, which is not good. That's a bad batting average. And my agent let me know. He calls me up, and my agent's name is Tom Rich, and I call him Richie Rich because that's what he is. And he's a really good agent. He's a lawyer. He never played baseball, but he's an attorney. He's got it going on. And he calls me up and says, Steve, look, when you come to Chicago, we need to have a conversation about your batting average or lack thereof. And I thought, hey, great. This will be a nice conversation. So I get to Chicago, and Tom's there, and he says, okay, Steve, look, I got it figured out. You're hitting 210, not good. You've been in the league 12 years. He said, they're on to you, bro. They're on to you. They know where you're going to hit the ball. He says, they're pitching you outside. You're hitting the ball to the right side. The defense is there. They're catching it. Your batting average is going down. Your team is going down, and so is the opportunity for me to get you another contract. He said, what I suggest that you do is you change the way you hit. I'm like, really? You want me to change the way I hit, Tom? Okay, you just don't change the way you hit. He says, yeah, what I think you should do is get on top of the plate, get a lighter bat, and start pulling the ball because they'll have to pitch you inside. So challenge the ball in, start pulling the ball, maybe hit a few home runs. You know, your average will go up and your team will start winning, and so will my opportunity to get you another contract. I said, man, listen to this guy. This dude's never had a bat in his hand in his life. I'm not changed. This guy is absolutely crazy. So I changed the way I hit. I actually did. I changed the way I hit. I thought, you know what? Man, it's not working now. The advice, maybe, okay, I'll try it. So I did. I got a lighter bat. Folks, I had one of the best years of my life. All because I was able to soften up that wall that we get in front of us when we're sometimes in our respective fields at a point of prominence. And we don't want to hear that thing. And after the season was over, I sat back and I started thinking about it, and I said, you know, the most expensive thing that I own right now is a closed mind. And if you think it's taxing and expensive on the way to being successful, you need to check out the cost of a big ego. Okay? Now, as a player, I was fortunate to play under two of the greatest managers ever, two Hall of Famers, Tommy Lasorda, Tony La Russa. You guys know who these people are, right? Two different forms in the way they do it, okay? These are two really great managers. They do two things differently than other people, and that's the reason they're in the Hall of Fame. Now, what's the main job for a manager or a leader of a team? They got to get everybody on the same end of the rope. They got to set a platform in the clubhouse that's conducive to winning. They got to make sure that there's harmony and everybody's working well together. Those type of things, yeah, we all know that. That's all fine. But they knew the differences between being a leader and a manager. Now, managers know one thing, is they treat everybody the same, right? Now, the rules are the same, but people aren't. And that's the other thing they knew. Leaders don't treat everybody the same because people are different. They knew which buttons to push, which ones not to, when to back off, when to push it on a little bit, right? And they knew these types of things. But the two things they did differently than everybody else is, number one, they made a connection with the people on that team. Absolutely connected with these people on the team. Knew everything about them. Gained the trust, which was the first thing. Gained their trust. When they gained the trust of the players on that team and it was embedded and laid down in stone, they did the second thing that was really important, that complemented the first, and that was they empowered them. They didn't dictate, they empowered. They wanted to cut loose the entrepreneurial flair of these individuals. That's the great thing. When you cut loose that entrepreneurial flair, the wellspring of ideas just jumps out of people. Isn't that true about American people, the free-thinking people that we are? And that's what he wanted to tap into, because when you cut loose that entrepreneurial spirit, what you're doing is you're challenging them. You're challenging them to raise the bar of expectancy. Folks, when you raise the bar, you lose the losers. But if you lower that bar, you're going to lose the winners. And the bigger problem isn't when you aim too high and miss. Bigger problem is when you aim too low and you actually strike the mark. Now, I want to talk for a second about changes in human behavior, how we can make some of these micro changes, okay? But first, I wanted to tell you, Gallup recently did a poll, said that 70% of the American workforce today is not emotionally engaged at work. 70% not emotionally engaged at work. So what that means is 7 out of 10 people that you hire are working just hard enough not to get fired. That's really not a good, not a good thing. Now, these behavioral changes that we want to change, maybe in ourselves, maybe with our team, how's that going to happen? Because it's not an aha moment, okay? It's not some grandiose event. You're in the brick stacking business now. You're stacking bricks. Bricks of positivity, one after the other, slow and steady. You stack enough bricks in a positive nature, you can build yourself a fortress. Drop a penny in the bank of success every day, just a penny, and double the efforts over the course of a month each day. A penny today, 2 cents tomorrow, 4 cents the next day, 8. You get that? You people in finance here, you know where I'm going with this, right? After 30 days of doing that, you will have yourself a fortune. Small conquests over a period of time will change the demeanor levels in people. Confidence starts to soar, and you've built what I like to call an inertia of positivity in all different aspects of your life, not just in the workforce, right? This inertia of positivity and, in your associations of in and out of work, your relationship with your spouse and kids, it all runs together. We know what inertia is, right? We learned that in school, right? Newton gave us the law. Object at rest remains so unless it's started up by some other force. Object in motion remains in motion unless it's interrupted by some unbalanced force. Folks, in the inertia of your life, you are the force. You're not somebody else. I put it on their desk. I thought they were going to do it. Yeah, I sent them an email. Nope, that doesn't count. Oh, I thought this other guy would. No, You are the decision maker and the ultimate arbiter of what's going to happen and where this whole thing is going with you. As a business coach, I got to tell you, I'm a little bit miffed about the levels of acceptance I see with some people, because our lives aren't static. They're moving all the time, man. If you're not growing, you're slowing. If it's not getting bigger, it's definitely getting smaller. Nothing stays in that level in the middle there. That level in the middle is where people go when, the questions aren't as tough, when the light's not as bright, and when the pressure doesn't mount. That level is called mediocrity. And if you go and you stay at that level too long, you're going to get consumed, obviously. As an executive coach, there's a word that comes up. I love coaching with the executives, yeah. Especially when you tell them they got an ugly baby. Ooh, they don't like it. They don't like that stuff, right? If you're coaching executives, you got to be ready to get fired, because eventually they're not going to like it and they're going to say, you're fired. Ooh, I guess I'm making a difference, right? So the coach and the executives, though, one thing that comes up, and it usually does most of the time, is the word failure. Folks, I have failed so many times in my life. I can't tell you how many times I've failed. I'm not afraid to talk about it. I actually think that, we should celebrate it. And I'm not talking about when Bob and Mike have a business and it goes down, they're destitute on the street. I simply mean that the word failure and celebrate, maybe they should go side by side with each other. And here's why. Did you realize that more than the lack of knowledge, more than the lack of a clear action plan or a strategy, the biggest obstacle in the way of success for people today is the paralysis caused by the fear of failure? Now, most of us learn early on that failure is bad. It's even shameful. We learn to hide our failures or make excuses for it or ignore it. And what's worse is that we begin to stop taking risks. And we only engage in those activities that have a high probability of success, even to avoid the possibility of failure. So what happens is the field of play becomes smaller and smaller, and the chances become less and less. But it doesn't have to be that way. You see, failure, not only is it critical, it's one of the fastest ways